What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house that's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building.
I'm joined today with Markus Thomason. How are you doing today, Markus?
I'm wonderful. How about you?
I'm fantastic because my very favorite audience member has joined us today. And why has our favorite audience member joined us today? It's because this is a chance encounter where I interview commercial real estate syndicators. That means investors, buyers, sellers, all that kind of stuff. And why would I interview them? Well, part of it is because the SEC says that if you want to get involved in private deals with them, you have to have a documented prior substantive relationship. And so that means I got to meet them very, very publicly, find out, if our businesses overlap or not, and make sure that we know each other's appetite for risk, level of sophistication, stuff like that. It's very exciting. But before we get too far into that, we're going to get some details about your business, Markus. But do you want to say a couple words to start us off?
Yeah, I'm just excited to be here. I appreciate you having me.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that we can work together in the future.
All right. Awesome. I love it. So the first segment that we go through is the 5 distinct motivations, but it's important for me to say, but wait, check your 8. Markus, I don't know if you can look through the camera and imagine that like 8 o'clock is like kind of down there. It's the audience is 5, and there might be this really hideous red button that says subscribe on it. And it's terrible. And the only way to get rid of it is to click on it. Okay, can you see if the audience is, but no, it's just a stupid joke that I like to do. But the 5 distinct motivations of commercial real estate investors. See that it takes months to do an acquisition, and you have to make sure that it all actually makes sense and adds up. So you have to have a real motivation to go through with it, and that's what I like to find out first, is why are you doing this? Now, some people, especially when they're a little bit older, like my age or older, they might be thinking about preservation of purchasing power, and what that means is like a store of value. Some people already have a portfolio of rental properties, and the way they make ends meet is from the proceeds of running and owning those properties. And the only reason why they would make a new acquisition is either if inflation has eaten away from the purchasing power from the cash flow, they're going to, rather than sell an asset, because that's the big no-no, you make a new acquisition from using your balance sheet. And that's one reason. Of course, the other one would be if there's an asset crash, you might be able to buy at a steep discount. And that's the other reason why these people would be doing it. But that's not me. What I'm up to is trading time directly for wealth, aka deployed capital. And here's the background. I have a CRM agency I have since 2011, and I used to work for web.com in their CRM division. The thing that's fancy about their CRM is that unlike the active campaigns and MailChimps and stuff like that, they only send mass emails to your segmented lists, whereas the ones that I worked with, they also take credit card transactions. And so I'd help create a wonderful customer experience with that. But I eventually got into real estate, recognizing that, hey, wait a second, when I'm making wage or salary, I seem to be paying more in tax than anybody. So doesn't it make sense to pivot where I'm getting rewarded in the form of this deployed capital? And so that's why I'm involved in all of this. But a lot of people, they're not thinking about that. They're just thinking about taking over their schedule. Okay, so maybe that means working fewer months per year or fewer weeks per month, or maybe it means actually fast tracking retirement, but that's what a lot of people come to this industry for. But that is not really accurate for this next group as far as their motivation. They are just plain ambitious. They're after that generational wealth. They want to make sure that their great grandchildren never have to hold a day job. They want to buy their whole town, and so they're going to be hustling into their 90s, and that's great. But the last group, they're also going to hustle into their 90s because their inspiration really has a face. They've picked a sector of society, perhaps it's animals or the environment or whatever it is, but they realize that to make a really big splash, a really big difference, your finances have to be pretty big if you're going to make that big of a difference. And so that's why some people are making these acquisitions. So Markus, I know that you're also a broker, but of these 5 different motivations, what combination of them jumps out and describes you best?
All of them.
All of them.
No,
Huh?
so I got into real estate to fast track to retirement, but to also help my hometown. It's completely desolate and destitute of the infrastructure that's needed. That's housing and education as well. So I'd like to take the proceeds from my wealth and pour it back into in the community that raised me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So then my next question though, it really has to go with like, especially when you see somebody who's young coming into this industry, you figure it's like, hey, like you just like saying, oh, well, there's lots of money in this, and so that's why I'm going to go after it? Or do you actually understand that this is a competitive industry, so there's risk involved, and it's also the risk of engineering? So what I like to do is I ask this qualifying question. This is, sorry for putting you on the spot on this one, but there are many popular investment asset classes, but I think blank is too risky. You're a broker, so I guess you could probably use certain types of real estate as being too risky for you, but even outside of real estate, if you choose, what's too risky for you, Markus?
To me, stocks and bonds outside of real estate,
Mhm.
and inside of real estate, I'd say the most risky would be commercial,
Okay,
like
so
really commercial office spaces.
office space is what you're talking about. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. So you figure there's going to be more and more of the work from home happening. Is that
Absolutely.
that's your play?
Yeah, I think that's where the world is moving. I think more and more people are getting hip to, tax loopholes and things where you can write off your office space in your home.
Mhm.
And people are, building, their dream houses or little 600 square foot homes, and they're going to write that off and not don't have to pay taxes on their home.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So my next question, it's actually more for the benefit of the audience. And in every episode of Chance Encounters, I pull out the Dan Does Deals Commercial Competency Cube. You can try and say that 10 times fast. But if you want your own copy of this, you go to dandoesdeals.com. It's totally free. I don't even ask for your email address, which is a really bad idea from a marketing perspective. But my priority is I want you to be able to effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate. And so in every episode, I go through all 6 of the sides to make sure that you understand how a deal works, put quite simply, and more importantly, how my guest fits into those deals. So let's get started with the repositioner. The repositioner looks at a bunch of different properties, does a bunch of different paperwork. And what are they doing with all this paperwork? Well, there's a fancy word for it. They're underwriting the deal. What that means is they're doing the math. They're figuring out, is this property even actually making the amount of money that the broker or seller is claiming that it is? And on top of that, a lot of people just call these guys investors. There's like 3 sides on here that people just call investors, but I call
Right.
these ones repositioners for a couple reasons. One, they're an acquisitions person, right? So they're the ones who are finding the deals, but they're also the ones who are figuring how can they change this property or how it's run so that there's more upside, okay? Now, one of the first ways that they can get upside that's really, really simple and takes no brain power at all is if they have access to more advantageous lending, then that automatically goes straight to the bottom line. So if you can get cheaper money, then that means you can make the building more profitable just from a lending side. But let's assume that that's not possible. Okay, the first place the repositioner is going to look is the operations. Okay, so they're going to look at, are there amenities they can add that will add additional revenue? It's more than just, like stopping, like obviously stopping those Benjamins from going down the toilet. That's a good thing, but there's more than just unclogging toilets, mowing lawns, and picking up rent. There's also like a vacancy component, which is marketing. It's one of my fortes that I bring, and then automation as well is what I bring to my teams. But often, because commercial real estate is so competitive, purely operations, getting it working in better order, that's probably not going to be enough upside. So very frequently the repositioner will get a contractor team to do a value add, okay, or the renovations, because a nice new fixed up unit can receive more in rent from tenants who are happy to pay it than the previous ones. So that's the other way that the repositioner gets their upside. But spending money on contractors, you can have a money pit. You can keep on spending and spending. So if the repositioner has the same problem that I have, which is, see, I'm from the internet, so that means I need a local, okay? I need somebody who lives nearby who could be there in an hour or two, because that's not going to be me. I'd still be stuck at an airport. So I'd be no help for that part, okay? I hope to have a good data plan and some cameras, basically. But anyway, when the repositioner puts this team together and has a team, turns around to the financiers and says, hey, I got this property, but it's tens of millions of dollars, and you don't happen to have, say, tens of millions of dollars you want to lend us, do you? Well, the financier is going to have even more questions than that. But the biggest one on their mind is, who is the sponsor? Who's the sponsor KP? What's that all about? Well, the answer is they kind of gloss over this in a lot of guru training courses, but to be eligible for a commercial loan, even if you're a physician, you got a bunch of physician friends, you pull a bunch of money together, you want to take over a 350 unit apartment complex. If you want to be eligible for a commercial loan, the bank's going to insist that somebody in the fold already owns a similar asset. Okay. And then on top of that, there's also going to need to be a balance sheet of at least the amount of the loan. And there's going to be certain liquidity required. But if you have all those pieces, you've got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So Markus, you're starting to get into investment as a financier, I understand, but your broker side means that you're finding the deals as well. So that makes you somewhat of a repositioner, deal finder. But how would you describe your contributions to your next deal as far as what's most likely?
Well, I provide a wide array of services to my team. I have 5 years of on-site management experience in multifamily. So I've got the underwriting. I've done due diligence for takeovers, acquiring properties under the companies I've worked for. I have a very light background in construction estimating, so I can do the rough numbers and then send them off to the contractor and work with them on creating a good rehab budget. And then I'd say the asset management and the overall execution of the business plan, I can oversee that.
Excellent, excellent. So the next question has to do with buy box then. And so when commercial syndicators, investors and whatnot are saying, hey, what you looking for? What's your ideal property? What's your buy box? They're really asking about three things. The first one is geography. Which state, which county, possibly even which neighborhood, okay? It's all going to matter as far as like a real sweet spot goes. The second thing is going to be the size. We're generally talking about multifamily here, okay? So that's apartment complexes, and the way that they measure those size, it's by the unit count. And the reason why that's so important is because the type of crew that will take over a 15 unit apartment complex will look very different from one that's taken down 150, 350 unit deals. Okay. So the size definitely matters. But the third thing, sometimes they just call it class. I separate it into two different words because I'm like that. But the first meaning of class has to do with the condition of the building. So is it old or is it up to date? Is it beat up or is it in relatively good shape? Is it like really, really fancy with all sorts of amenities, or is it basically no frills? That's the condition. That's one version of the word class. The second version of the word class, I think, is better called area. And what that has to do with is like, what's the crime rate like where the property is located? It's like how much traffic goes by. It's also what are the school districts like in that area. But both of those two meanings of class are scored the same way as in grade school, with A plus at the top and then A and then A minus and then B plus and so on. So Marcus, as far as deals that are right in the sweet spot, what you looking for?
I'd say we're looking for the 50 unit and up. We can go lower than that. It just has to make sense. 50 units, I'd say the largest we're looking at this very present moment would be about 200.
Mhm.
And this, of course, we grow, we'll up that number. And then, of course, as far as the class, we're looking anywhere from class C plus to class B plus.
Okay. And then the state.
We're looking all over Texas, all the primary and secondary markets, tertiary, if the deal makes sense.
Excellent, excellent. So then my next question has to do with people. See, because there are so many facets to commercial real estate deals, people are really eager to help each other out, give references and all that kind of stuff. But more what I'm concerned about is what are my guests' unique skills? Who are they better suited to help than anybody else? Me personally, because of my marketing, social media, tech, CRM, blah, 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 blah. The sponsors and KPs are the people who I'm usually trying to seek out. But these days, it's more and more repositioners and locals. But I interview people on all these different sides. But Marcus, if you have any 506B deals, don't go enticing investors. So whatever that means, like I always like to say, like if you have like a donut or something, don't wave it in front of the camera because that's very enticing. But if you don't have any 506B deals, if you're doing 506C, then do whatever you want. You're a broker, so you should be able to advertise publicly on your deal. But who's the best person to reach out?
As far as
Like as far as like who are you disproportionately well
uh,
suited to help? Like it sounds like the sponsors and the
uh,
repositioners
yeah,
would be the best for you.
yeah. So I work with sponsors primarily. I don't I don't do a lot of the capital raising for my team. I primarily work with the KPs to put the deal together, and then they go out and advertise.
Right, 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 exactly. Because all sponsors and repositioners, they have some financier, which is investor relations duties. Is you just can't be in this business without it. So, because you always need an inflow of capital just to make more acquisitions. So that's the plan. But as far as how to reach out to you, for me, my name is super duper distinct. You can find me on LinkedIn really easily. This QR code that goes to the FAQs page of 506 BME, and that's the service that I offer to help with the documentation of your investor relations to show that you know people's level of sophistication, appetite for risk, and all that kind of fun stuff. So you can check that out. But Marcus, we ended up meeting through some of these Zoom meetups that we do all the time. What's the best way to reach out to you?
You can reach me by email. I'm on LinkedIn as well. I can provide my QR code as well if anybody wants to reach out. And I'm always available. Just shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I'm available by text as well, certain hours of the day. So yeah, I hope that helps.
All right, sweet. And then the only thing I have left then, it's actually not for you, Marcus, it's for you in the audience, which is my public service announcement. Because some people watch these interviews and they have the searing pain in their eyeballs and like migraine-like symptoms. And it's because there's a hideous red button down there. It says subscribe on it. It's ugly. You should get rid of it. Why would you want it? Just, it's free. You just hit the thing, it goes gray, and like, okay, sure, I'm biased because it means that YouTube might actually start paying for these videos instead of me. But really, all it means, as far as you're concerned, is my videos might show up on your list of suggestions, which you can go ahead and ignore if you choose. I just appreciate the fact that you spent this time with me. Just like Marcus, I appreciate you joining me today. This has been great getting to know you better.
Absolutely. Same to you, Dan.
Awesome.
Make sure you 506B me. Any syndicators, make sure you 506B me.
Hi.
Oh, hey, yeah, here's my code. You got your QR code scanner? Okay, yeah, oh yeah, just hold it right in the square there. Okay, cool. And now you hit open in browser.
Okay.
Okay, are you already logged into 506B me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so there's my video. So now I'm already on your watch list. So when you get back to your hotel, you can find out what my core competencies are and my level of sophistication. Sound good?
Yeah.
I love your hat. Real estate's a scam. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
You too.
506B me, everybody.